Yes, we're breaking down everything I do at 41 years old to feel 21, including this supplement, including this red light. We'll get into that in a second. But first off, people ask me all the time, well, how are you in better shape in your 40s than you were at 21? Well, first off, it wasn't hard to beat that. I was 260 pounds in my early 20s. But honestly, it's not some crazy biohack. It's mostly the opposite as the fundamentals. So, spoiler alert, we'll get into some of the tactics and the next level stuff. But first and foremost, the older I get, the more I double down on the stuff that works. Preserving muscle, like getting quality sleep, enough movement in your day to feel good, have a low resting heart rate. And of course, the elephant in the room is what goes in your mouth from a nutrition perspective. 80% of the time, whole foods. 20% of the time, I indulge in my favorite treats. So I'll talk about how we can make that work. A few smart edges that stack the deck in your favor, though, is going to walk through everything I personally do to feel 21 at 41. Not just look, but feel, which I think is more important, and not the biohacking, like surface level stuff, Instagram nonsense, just the stuff that moves the needle. So when I was 21, I thought, youth came easily, and it wasn't true. When you eat garbage, when you sleep less than optimal, and you're up playing video games, it was very easy for me to weigh 260 pounds in my early 20s. So that strategy of relying on youth wasn't actually very reliant for me. But even after I lost weight, I still believe a lot of people believe that aging is just inevitable. After 40, energy drops, strength drops, metabolism slows, all these myths that are out there. And it's true for a lot of people, but because they don't do the right things. After coaching literally thousands of people, almost 2,000 to this point, experimenting on myself for 20 years since I lost 60 pounds, a lot of what we call aging is just accumulating bad habits compounded over time. Too little muscle, too much sitting, not enough sleep, too much stress, too much screens before bed, too much alcohol, too much junk. So you fix those things, suddenly you feel 10, 20 years younger in this case. I'm confident in saying I feel better today than I did at 41. Now, there are some nuances and things that change that you have less room for error. But overall, here's the framework I use. So the how is my big 5 framework. So first is cap control, calories and protein, but I'm not like in a calorie deprived state most of the year. I'll go through maybe a 12-week phase where I tighten things up, lean out, and then most of the time in maintenance to a small build. Okay, I think that's what people lose sight of, is they think they have to be dieting all the time. And the only reason you're doing that is because you're just completely off the deep end when you're not dieting, and you're gaining weight back that you lost faster than you lost it. So no fads, no cutting carbs, just hitting calorie targets and keeping protein high so muscle sticks around. That's the cap. If you want my calculator, there's a link in the description. Second is water. So 3 liters a day. It sounds stupidly simple, but dehydration wrecks your energy, wrecks your brain function, workouts. Hard to change your situation without hydration. Third, sleeping 7 to 8 hours per night. I've had stretches where I dieted too hard and I hit some insomnia, rough patches, and it was rough. It really sabotaged everything else. So now I don't try to catch up on the weekend. I have a set schedule and I'm in bed by 10, 10:30, 90% of the time. And having that consistent schedule is really the biggest sleep hack you can have. But there are some nuances I'll talk about as we go forward here. But mainly it's just white noise, cool enough room. I don't need it that cold though. And sleep medication can help in certain situations. I talk about DORA, dual orexin receptor agonists. That's the newest class of sleep meds that give you a full actual sleep. And if you really need it, none of the over-counter stuff helps. None of the standard tips help. I'd explore that as an option. I no longer use it, but I certainly did when I was going through a rough patch. Fourth, 4 sessions a week of strength training, sometimes 5, but I have to mix in hockey and balance the recovery with that. That's just your anti-aging insurance policy. You lose muscle, that's the culprit for your slowed metabolism. And obviously you lose independence later in life when you have to be, held up by a walker. So build muscle early as possible. You can still build it well into your 70s, even 80s, with some research. So just keep doing it. If you lose it if you don't use it. Fifth and final one is steps, 8 to 10K per day. Nothing magical about those numbers. That just gives me a target. Keeps the body moving like it was designed to. You're less achy. Your heart works better. You're lower on both stress and blood pressure. And it does burn some calories, and everything else is really a lot easy and more efficient. when you move. All right. Next up is the muscle piece. I talked about that, but beyond just looking good in a t-shirt, it's about longevity. Big links to that. Insulin sensitivity. Muscle is a sink for excess carbs. So it just gives you more of a buffer to deviate off your diet a little bit. And then obviously metabolic health and bone density. So I already spoke about how I train. It's not group classes, it's not CrossFit, it's not Orange Theory. It's heavy weights to a point where it's 1 to 2 reps shy of failure in most cases. And I do it in a way where I'm warmed up and I'm building up to heavier weights so that, I only get injured playing hockey. I never get injured in the gym. So that's telling you something. Cardio that doesn't suck would be the next one. I still train my heart. I still do those step counts. I talked about zone 2 cardio a couple times within those step counts, which is just more of a brisk pace. I call it the 12-3-30, 12% incline, 3 on the speed, and 30 minutes, right? And I only do that maybe once or twice a week. And then hockey is a weekly thing where I am pushing to those higher heart rates just in spurts. Okay? Because VO2 max is one of the strongest predictors of living longer. That's just how much oxygen you can uptake during hard exercise. You want that number as high as possible in your 30s and 40s so that by 60, 70, your VO2 max isn't the equivalent of just getting up off the toilet, because then you're done. Talked about sleep. And then lastly, I would say smart supplementation. So boron is my godsend tool for bone health and free testosterone. So pre and post blood work, I see a measurable impact in mostly free testosterone, which is the most important one. That's the one you can actually utilize. And it was a good 20-25% off by using 6 milligrams of this. Curcumin is another one for inflammation. I just find, exercise is a stressor, playing hockey is a stressor, life is a stressor when you have kids and career and so on. And curcumin is one that really helps lower CRP, which is an indication of systematic inflammation. And then lastly, creatine, just for performance in the gym, maybe some brain health. I just find I feel better. It's almost an antidepressant for me. All right. The last couple, unfortunately, the elephant in the room is I have to really drink on rare occasions now. It just affects my sleep and my mood the next day so much. It never used to be the case in my 20s. So 1 to 2 drinks max, never within 3 hours of bed. If I stick to that rule, I sleep fine. I bounce back from it. Even if my resting heart rate's higher for a day or two, I can deal with that. It's just pre-bed, peeing all night, not getting a full sleep. It's just not worth the cost for me at this stage of the game. Now, last one is stress management. I think this one is overlooked in this stage of life where you're running around with kids, you're working nonstop. So I try to do meditation or non-sleep deep rest. Just search Yoga Nidra or NSDR on Spotify. 5-10 minutes, it gets you kind of into your body, out of your head. And I do that only when I'm kind of haven't got my sleep or I'm extra stressed. 5 minutes goes far. And just finding things to counterbalance all the stress in your life. So that said, if this list felt overwhelming, I do use red light as well. It's primarily, I don't know, it's a winter thing, right? I live in a winter climate. I feel it helps a bit with that SAD. My skin condition seems to be marginally improved. I wouldn't say go out and buy one of these tomorrow, but again, I'm talking about everything I use to help you out here. All right, so I didn't start this all at once. Nobody does. Just stacking habits over time. Maybe it's lifting once a week, then it's dialing protein, then fixing your sleep, then walking more. If you're super motivated, you can try to implement money, but it's one step at a time. Okay. So it's not about like chasing your youth. It's about building a lifestyle that keeps you going into this decade. It can be your best decade financially, physically, if you prioritize it, master it, and move on from there. All right, that's it for now. Hopefully this was helpful. We'll see you guys on the other side. If you want that calculator to set up your nutrition plan, there is a link in the description, or you can message me privately.